Welcome and thank you for joining us here on this edition of Ship to Shore. Joining me today is Matthew Mullins, a recent graduate from South Shield Marine School in the UK, but originally from Ireland. Matthew, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's lovely. To begin this conversation, Matthew, you can perhaps tell us, where do you come from and how you got interested in maritime?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from County Donegal in Ireland, which is in the northwest. I got into maritime probably from my parents. So both my parents worked at sea for a little bit. My dad was a radio officer. And yeah, basically I got inspired from them. My dad now works in the Coast Guard in Malin Head, Ireland. So I kind of had this interest then, just hearing from their stories, to get into the maritime industry. I really wanted to work at sea, but of course you're not sure what department you want to work in. So when I was 16, I got some work experience on this small general cargo ship. It was just a small thing, 70 meters long, and I got to work for about 3 weeks on board. So that was a cool experience. But I think from that, I decided I wanted to get into the deck department. I really wanted to be a deck officer and climb the ladder. So that's kind of how it started then. And then when I was 17, I got my cadetship. So that's how I got in.
Oh, I see. Okay, now you were a student at the South Shields Marine School, okay, as I mentioned earlier. Tell us about the school and the program that you actually did there.
Yeah, so South Shields Marine School, it's close to Newcastle in the UK. So basically, it's what I'm doing is a foundation degree in the deck side. So I'm training to be a deck officer to get my Officer of the Watch ticket. So the way it works with this course, it was kind of different for us the year we did it, but we started in September. We did 5 weeks of basic STCW courses. And then after 5 weeks of college, they sent us out on our first ship. So we were very new in the industry, didn't have any knowledge or experience really. So we did then our first trip, and the way it works is you kind of alternate. So you'll go a bit in college, a bit at sea, college. So you have 5 phases then.
Sure.
So yeah, the whole thing is 3 years in total. And out of those 3 years, you'll get 1 year at sea and then the 2 years at college.
I see.
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything. Like we're doing things from maritime law, and then doing firefighting and stability and meteorology. It's just a huge variety of subjects that we do.
So on the vessels that you actually go out on, who do the vessels belong to? Is it schools, or is it sponsored by companies?
Yeah, so in the UK, the way it works is you get sponsored by a company from day one. So before I even go into the marine school, I go to my interviews with different companies. So I did this when I was in high school, and then I got a position with Maersk, and so they then sponsor me throughout my cadetship. So they'll supply the ships, they'll pay for the course, and yeah, that's really how it works. So all my ships have been with Maersk.
Oh, I see. So each individual student actually goes on a different ship. It's not as if a whole group of you actually go on a single ship for a certain amount of time and then you come back to class after that.
No, we all have our own ships. Sometimes they'll send you in a pair. Like in my class, we had 5 cadets with Maersk. So they sent 2 and 2, and then I went on my own to one of my ships. So they that's how they do it really. Everyone in our class is with a different company.
Oh yeah, okay, I see. Oh, fantastic. Now you had the opportunity to work on a tanker and to be also in a container ship. How did these opportunities come about? You probably touched on this. What were your responsibilities while you were working on them? And also lastly, what did you learn from these experiences?
Well, the way they came about, of course, like I was saying with Maersk, I was very fortunate to get experience on a tanker. I think I'm the only cadet in my class and in the Maersk cadets to get experience on a tanker.
Sure.
That was good though. So I spent 5 months on the tanker, and that was my first ship. So really, my responsibilities weren't that like enormous. It was my first ship. Like I said, I'd only done 5 weeks in college, so it was a lot of deck work, a lot of maintenance, getting to understand ship life, how it all works,
Keeping and
yeah, because of course, yeah, things like that, and you have to learn how to live on board because it's so different to anything at home. It's just a different world.
Sure.
So I did that, and then after that, it was all container ships. I got to work on a triple E called Maersk, so it was one of the biggest ships in the world. So that was quite an experience, and that was my last ship. So I had a lot more responsibility there, really understudying the officers and getting a lot more responsibility and practice as an officer. So that was quite cool.
No, fantastic. You mentioned on your LinkedIn profile that you're hoping to be able to graduate in now August.
Yes.
In other words, gets the Officer of the Watch certificate. For someone who does not know what this is, well, what is OOW, and also what will it mean for your career?
So, Officer of the Watch is basically it's like a driving license that you get to drive ships, and you can get different limitations on the tonnage. So that's based on the size of the ship. It's measured in tons. So the ticket I'm going for is an unlimited ticket. So unlimited tonnage means I will be able to go on any ship really and have that license to drive it and manage safe operations on board, work with cargo operations.
Sure.
So really, with that Officer of the Watch ticket, I'll have the qualification to work as a third officer or a second officer on the deck. So and then after that, I can progress to becoming chief, and then later on captain. So it's kind of that path to becoming captain.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I see. Okay. No, that's fantastic then. Now, the world over, the conversation around every single town in the world is a coronavirus, right? How has your country been affected by COVID-19 pandemic? And also, secondly, you personally, you touched on this because you cannot graduate. How have you been affected by the pandemic?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm from Ireland. I'm living in the UK. So I've been basically stuck in the UK since January. Well, I think coronavirus came around March, but I haven't been home since January. So that was probably, I think it was affected like most countries. You know, borders were closed, no more flights, lockdown. Yeah, it's crazy. But here in the UK, where I've been, it's basically just been me in the house, just studying, and a lot of delays to exams.
Sure.
Which causes, it can be quite stressful when you have delays. And the way it happened for us was we had a large gap where there was the lockdown, but we still had to graduate by a certain date. So everything was kind of jam-packed. So that was quite a stressful time, just getting all these exams done, getting through the coursework. But we got through it, which meant I graduated with my foundation degree in marine operations just a few weeks ago. The only thing left now is like I said, the Officer of the Watch ticket, which consists of an oral exam. Now, I was supposed to originally have it on the 3rd of August, but that obviously because of coronavirus got cancelled. So I was waiting now for a new date, which I just got a few days ago, and that'll be next week now. So I'm now just busy preparing for that, and
Sure.
yeah, hoping to pass it.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, I know you're going to do well in your exam. Now, moving on to a different issue, slightly different, but within the same issue. The International Maritime Organization, the International Transport Workers Federation, and many other organizations around the world have been calling on governments to relax locked down regulations so that seafarers can be able to go home. From your own observation, which European countries have allowed crew changes to take place, do you know?
Well, I've seen quite a few European countries, but it's really just crew from their own country. So, for example, in the UK, crew changes, I think, are happening, but they can't bring people from other countries. So they're looking for British crew, British officers,
Sure.
which there aren't that many of compared to other countries like the Philippines. So that's where a problem comes. They're having problems flying people out. I did see Denmark. They flew in a lot of Filipino crew for crew changes recently, which was great to see. Of course, people need to get home, and then of course the people at home, they need to get to sea so that they can provide for their families. So there's people want to get off and people want to get on, and it's good to see that we're slowly being able to do more crew changes. But of course, it is frustrating for the guys.
No, it could be. I mean, it can be very, very frustrating. So you were saying that in Denmark, they would allow these guys to disembark, and then charter flights would actually pick them up and then take them to their home countries. Is that what you mean?
Well, my understanding of it was that Maersk, the company that I was with, they have an airline. They had an airplane that went specially for crew change. So they brought about 100 and something Filipino crew to Denmark, and then from there they could go to the different countries for crew changes. So I'm not entirely sure how it worked, but they did something and they followed all regulations, and everyone had masks and visors and everything. But they did something.
Okay, no, that's really good of them. What message would you want to convey to fellow seafarers who may be listening to this interview from a vessel drifting on the seas somewhere, and those who are sitting at home wishing to be able to board a vessel?
Yeah, of course, it's difficult. And I'd just say, yeah, stay strong, guys. Like, this is a huge part in history, and you guys are playing such a big role in that, keeping the trades running throughout this pandemic. And yeah, you're playing a big part in history. And then for the guys at home, it is difficult. You will get on board eventually. And yeah, we're all thinking about you guys, really, just to hope that you can get through it.
Yeah, sure. We hope so. We really hope so. You will be qualifying as the Officer of the Watch very, very soon. You will be competing now with Indians, Filipinos, Chinese, Russians, Indonesians, and amongst others to get a job at sea. What do you think makes Irish or European seafarers stand out?
It's a difficult one. Obviously, in the maritime industry, there's a lot of competition, and that usually consists around nationality, and everyone's thinking, what nationality is the best? I find it quite difficult to compare nationalities to each other. I've sailed with almost all these nationalities that you've mentioned, and I've had some amazing officers, amazing crew. So, I mean, probably one thing that stands out for Europeans, for Irish, is that we have the English as the first language, which is obviously, I feel like everyone speaks English nowadays. It's not that much of a a bonus thing to have. But I don't know, like having an Officer of the Watch ticket from the UK, being under the MCA, I think that's a huge thing. It's just the standards that the MCA have are so high. I'm very privileged to be trained under that, so I'm thankful for that.
Okay, no, fantastic. Just to draw on my own country's experience, one of the major challenges in my country, South Africa, with regard to seafarers, is finding a ship on which you can do either your training or you can find employment. Largely because our country relies on foreign ships to provide employment for our seafarers. What challenges are you facing in Ireland or say the UK?
It's quite similar to you. It's also very difficult. I mean, back in the day, the UK were the biggest maritime people. And now, of course, that's kind of shifting more towards Asia.
Sure.
So you have the China, Philippines, and then India is a huge one as well. So it's getting more difficult. There's a lot of competition. Also with these British flagged ships and Irish flagged ships, there's not that many, and the numbers are going down. So I understand your struggle because it's the same for us. I think it's just going to be getting, for me anyway, that first ship in rank is going to be a difficult one. But I think once you get that first stamp in your discharge book, it'll get easier just with that experience. Because that's what companies are looking for.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, sure. And another one, I mean, maybe you can just share your experience as well, is that we as South Africans are seen to be expensive, obviously compared to your Asian guys, Chinese or Filipinos and stuff like that. Do you have the same challenge as well, say?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely an issue with companies. I mean, with Maersk, for example, we, as a cadet, we had a quite similar experience to South African cadets because we were told that there would be no employment following the cadetship, and that was for South African cadets and British cadets. So we have that similar thing going on, and I think it comes down to being expensive. But at the same time, there is a standard that you get with that expensive, which I think is also to be considered.
I see, I see. Is there support from your government or other national organizations in finding ships where you can do either training or placement for employment?
I think I'm going to discover that soon once I qualify. At the moment, it hasn't really been an issue for me because I've had that support from Maersk, which has been great. Just having them help me through the cadetship. So I haven't really had that issue yet. I'm sure I'll have an answer to that maybe in a year or two, and I'll know what it's like to be looking for employment. But I think it's going to be okay.
I see. Okay. No, yeah. Fantastic. Now, futuristically, looking forward into the future, in the context of ship automation, because this has become now the new trend, ships are becoming increasingly automated. What do you think is the future of seafarers like yourself?
Yeah, people are saying things like, okay, ships will be totally autonomous, so having no people on board. I find it hard to just believe that in my lifetime anyway. Things like all this technology, it always has to be monitored. So we can even see things like our bridge nowadays. It has the ability to have things like track control, where it will keep the track in the course and make alterations by itself, which is impressive. We don't use it that much though, because you can't rely on that really. It won't avoid collisions. It has to be constantly monitored. So I feel like as future progresses, our roles will become more of a monitoring maybe role rather than the actual job of navigating. But yeah, for ships to completely become autonomous, it's going to take a while, because I think every ship needs to have this for it to work, because there's ships that won't comply with the rules, and that makes things difficult. It only really works in a perfect world, if you know what I mean. Everything has to work together. So I think it'll still be a while, but I feel like our jobs there's going to be maybe less people, but more monitoring roles.
Probably your jobs are going to shift onshore in terms of monitoring and actually steering the vessels from, control rooms onshore.
Yeah, I have heard of that. That's a nice idea, that you can do what you love and still go home at the end of the day. that's obviously a big thing, being away for a few months. But then, I mean, I don't understand on board how they're gonna, yeah, things break down all the time, and there's constantly things need to be repaired. And for ships to have no people on board, I just find it very futuristic. maybe I'm sure someday it'll happen, but I think in the next few years, I think people will still be on board to do these things.
Not quite. And also from a legal framework perspective as well, because the entire regulation that governs, the seas, so to speak, is based on people actually being on the vessel, having a captain, having a chief, and all these kinds of things. So that
Exactly.
have to be overhauled completely for automation to be able to actually function.
Yeah, I think it's not just going to be a switch that will happen overnight. I think it's going to be this long process. But yeah, it's exciting. I like seeing technology advance. It's exciting.
Yeah, no. Yeah, time will definitely tell. Now, moving towards the end of our conversation, what are your future plans?
My future plans. So I'm actually planning to volunteer with mercy ships in Africa. So that's my plan once I qualify, just to work as a third officer. And then from there, I'm interested.
Before we move on to that, for our viewers, what is a mercy ship, and what would that mean?
Mercy Ship, they are like a charity organization, and they work in Africa, bringing medical care.
Okay.
So it's a hospital ship where you have doctors, and of course you have everything. You have everything a ship needs. So electricians, deck officers, engineers, catering, and we all volunteer, and it's all free of charge medical care for the people in Africa who need that kind of help. So it's a great thing to be a part of. So I'm excited to get involved with that.
I see. So you want to do that for a certain amount of time, and then?
Yeah, I'd love to do my first trip there as third officer, hopefully this year. Okay. And then from there, I'd love to top up my degree. So at the moment, I have my foundation degree.
Sure.
So I can top it up, which I think would be a good idea. So that's the plan at the moment. Okay. From there, I don't know, I'd love to just continue with my path, just to slowly climb the ladder in the Merchant Navy.
No, that's fantastic. That's really fantastic. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us and availing yourself for this interview.
Thank you so much. It was really great.
No, fantastic. We wish you all the best, and trust that you're going to really do well on your upcoming oral exam.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. To our viewers, thank you for joining us here on this edition of Ship to Shore. Thank you, be safe, and goodbye.